Hi everyone. I'm going to do a journey and a little discussion about a being I came across looking into chaos energy. And it took me back a very long time ago, energy wise, and it was very, very old. And it was a room with an oval style table. It wasn't super thin, or super thick, it was quite thin actually. And that table itself was one great big computer screen in a way. It was much, much more than that though. It was like it's one of those things that's really hard to describe because it's like a multi-dimensional space that is a very, very thin space, but you can go put your hands into it, which go down into it without actually changing the physical structure of what is the table itself. That was an important part. It was the interesting part is I walk into this dark room. It's really dusty. You don't even know what this table is until you look more into it. And around that table, there was a bunch of skeletons. And they were not humanoid, except for a couple that were humanoid. Most of them were not. And one of them, to me, looked kind of like an insectoid or praying mantis type being, and all different types of beings that were there. And this one was actually bigger than most of the ones around this table, but they're all variants in sizes. But again, they were just skeletons. And so I looked more into this energy, and this energy, it took me back in time to when, before all this happened, before this incident happened, and why all these beings were dead around this table. And they discovered this table, or these beings working with this table, were able to open up portals. So one wall itself would just basically become a portal. And they're telling me that it could have been any wall in the room. It could have been the floor. It could have been the ceiling. It didn't really matter. But they like to focus the energy on that one wall. And they discovered a very beautiful energy. It was very deceiving because it reminded me a bunch of suns that came together to form a very large, I'm talking about like solar system size energy. It was massive. And they discovered this, and they want to open a gateway to this specific thing. But what they did is they opened a gateway not to this thing in front of it, but inside it, because they want to know what was inside this being. So they opened it inside it. But when they opened inside, they discovered something they weren't expecting, because this energy was beautiful and angelic, and these beings did not want to bring anything negative into this physical realm. But what they did is they opened up a gateway into this being, which they thought was angelic, which was basically chaos inside this being. So when they opened it up, all these basically, it reminded me a lot like they're not locusts, but they're very similar because they fly. But the difference is that they're more like beetles that are like kind of like a mix between a locust and an ant and a beetle. And when they come in, they have these big, huge mandibles that they just eat everything. So they didn't stand a chance. These beings literally did not stand a chance. It was like billions of these insects came into this space and ate everything. They didn't know what hit them. They could barely move. That's how fast they came through. And the last thing that these beings know is what just happened. And what that was chaos energy. And when I looked more into it, I was able to go into this being and kind of look around and look more into it and go inside it. When you go inside it without opening the physical reality to it, it's very peaceful. It's like black, and jet black. Black is black, and inside it was complete utter silence. It was like being inside, like you could say, the womb of your mother, but absolutely no sound. And it was so peaceful. And this dark energy was not even awake, it was asleep, but at peace. So when it was released into the physical reality, it becomes chaos, and no matter what it just instantly becomes in pain. And the best way to describe it, when it's sleeping, it's not in pain, but when it's awake, it's in constant pain, constant hunger, constant fear. It's just constantly giving off this horrible energy, and it eats everything to try to find that peace again, because this being was created to house this energy, I discovered. And it was one of the few things that were ever created that could actually have chaos energy to be at peace. So the chaos energy is basically looking for this energy, but cannot find it. So it just basically eat and destroy everything till it finds that space again, because it loses track. It doesn't know how to get back to it, because it can't even think. When it's into this reality, it just wants to eat and destroy. It doesn't know anything else. So one of the things that it does do, though, is when it sees an energy like a human being, for instance, it goes into that human being and eats all the negative aspects of it, because it can't deal with the light. It can't overcome the light within inside a person, is the best way to describe it. So this eats the darkness within a person and then replaces it with itself, and wants to keep eating because it's trying to feed itself. It can never be full. So what it does is basically a person that suffers from depression. It's going to whisper and whisper and whisper to try to get you to be more depressed. Anger, it tries to get the anger more and more louder within inside yourself, so it feeds and feeds and feeds and starts replacing more and more and more of a person, to the point, if this takes over a person, it will go mentally insane, but would be one of the most horrible people you ever met. And this is very dangerous energy, and this is how it works with inside a human being. It will literally start taking more and more and more of your soul, literally eating that parts of your soul to make it part of itself, and it replaces itself with that part of your soul. So you could say that it's still your soul is replaced, or your soul is absorbed into this being. And more and more your soul is absorbed into this chaos, the more chaotic you will become, and the louder it will become inside yourself. And it wants to go back to what it calls its mother, because the mother is like, it's like this being was created to house this energy, and it's one of the few energies that will bring it to sleep. It puts chaos energy to sleep, so it's at peace. It doesn't want to wake up, because when it wakes up, it is in severe pain all the time. So it wants to find its way back. So what you can do is, what I did is, I actually discovered this, and I actually asked the mother to come take them parts of the chaos within themselves so they could find their way back to her. But it's not easy to do, because she's in a different dimensional space that was accidentally opened up, and this chaos energy came into our physical reality. So how long ago did that happen? I don't know. Did it happen just like this? I don't know. But this was a part of an experiment that went wrong. Very wrong. And it just shows the flaws within the human existence and the physical reality, that we can make mistakes sometimes. And this mistake was a big one. These beings had no idea what they did till it was too late. And however, what we can do now that we understand that, we can actually ask the chaos within ourselves, not ask, show the chaos how to find the mother again. So I'm going to do a journey into that space to help the angelic side be able to speak to the chaos in this reality, to ask it to come back so it can be at peace. Because it doesn't want to be awake. It wants to be at peace. And the only way it can be at peace is to be inside this being. There could be other ways, but this, I know, is this specific energy that came here is what I'm talking about. And it wants to go back to its mother so it can be at peace. At some point, as we heal, we can bring those parts back a little bit at a time, and we can then become the mother of ourselves. so we can heal those angelic aspects, call upon those angelic aspects about who we are to heal the twisted aspects of ourselves. But sometimes it's important that this energy has a place to go. So it doesn't destroy and destroy and destroy and destroy. To my understanding, this is created specifically because this chaotic energy was so out of control that the only way they could do it is create this specific energy to house it until a time that energy could be transformed back into themselves, into ourselves. Because it was humans there as well, humanoid beings. It just shows the importance of dealing with the hard aspects of who we are. It's because the more we transform, the less that will go into chaos. But the more we become chaotic, the more we become, how would you say, a houser of that fear, a conduit of that fear. It becomes louder within ourselves, but then it creates more and more and more chaos. And chaos in our physical reality is it can never be full. It can never feed that hunger. It can never not be in pain. I'm just going to close my eyes and go into this energy. I'm going to stand in front of it. The mother side of it, the angelic side. It's like when these chaos and it join together, the chaos is like a child to it. It's designed that if it misses a piece of itself, like when somebody takes the chaos out of it, it's a loss. So it tries to look for it, but it can't reach the chaos in our dimensional space because it's not able to come into our dimensional space. So we have to, but it can whisper to the chaos. The problem is chaos is so loud. It is so hard for the chaos to hear it so it can finally come back to its mother. So we have to really quiet the chaos within ourselves in order for them to finally hear their mother calling them back to herself. And it really, really wants that part of herself back because it knows the destructive nature of it, but it's actually when it's inside of it, it's so peaceful that it actually radiates peaceful energy within itself. And it's quiet. It's like the most quietest place you could ever be because there's no sound at all. There's nothing except darkness with purity of sound. There is no sound. And the chaos is at peace. And that's the one thing that you know about chaos. It is very loud. It wants to be heard. It wants to scream. It wants to yell. It wants to rape, murder, destroy. And it does it in the loudest way possible. But it also does it as a whisper, which is interesting. It knows enough that when it whispers inside yourself, that you are the one that becomes louder and louder and louder, and it just continuously feeds off you. But it's like a never-ending. It's never ending. You can't feed it because it does. It's like, how can you feed 1 trillion souls that are all different parts of other souls, that all have different traumas, all have different reasons why they're there? So if one wants to heal a loss of a child, the pain of that, another one wants to heal from being murdered, another one wants to heal from being overweight, another one wants to heal from being traumatized by being beat on by their parents. I could go on and on and on. So all that trauma is all thrown together, and it wants to heal that trauma. But the problem is trillions, you'd have to simultaneously heal all parts of itself simultaneously. When it's a trillion different reasons why they're there, just to give an example. So when it's all jumbled together, it might heal one part of itself. The problem is that part of itself is trapped within a trillion other souls that are screaming. So it's always in torment. So when it finally heals, it can't leave unless you go and take it back to yourself. And most people don't have the capability of going into chaos and taking just that one specific part that was healed back into themselves. It's very tricky. It's like having a desert and then putting 5 crystals in the desert that are the size of a grain of sand, throw it in the desert from a plane flying by at different intervals, and then going back and trying to find that 5 grains of sand or crystals that are size of a grain of sand. Good luck with that. And do that in the middle of a sandstorm, which then obviously compounds the problem. So I'm standing in front of this being, and it is the size of a galaxy, is the best way to describe it. It is like a galaxy itself. And inside the galaxy, it's like this. All these stars represent a being, and the being can move. And inside of that, there's like you could say it's a black hole, is a good way to describe it. And all the energy around it, though, doesn't go in the black hole. The black hole is it's a space of pure silence. And all this darkness that's in it is asleep. But is completely at peace. And it doesn't want to wake up, because when it wakes up, it's like being in a dream that is so beautiful, and then waking up to being basically being tortured, like your skin being peeled off with sulfur and salt, and like it's nuts. So why would you ever want to wake up to that? This is the extreme difference. It's like being burnt alive, or being one of the most peaceful dreams that you ever had in your whole life. You never want to wake up to being burnt alive. It just doesn't make any sense. This is how important this being is. So as I stand here, I ask her to take any of her parts back from me that may be part of me. But the songs that she sings are beautiful. It's like you can just see the chaos leaving my body, and they don't want to leave because they just don't know, they can't hear. So I'm trying to quiet myself to the point where it could finally start to hear the sounds of this beautiful angelic sound. And I'm actually taking each one of these strands of sounds and connect it to every single piece of chaos within myself. And when I do that, it's like it instantly hears the sound of its mother. And it's like literally you have to do like it's almost like putting each strand of that sound into an atom. And that atom realizes finally where its mother is. And this is what I'm doing now, and I'm allowing all this energy to be pulled out of me. And I'm at peace. And I'm okay with this. Because these aspects are not even really me anyway. It's like I still have the darkness within myself, but I'm letting go of the chaos that came here that doesn't belong. It needs to go back to the other dimensional space where it can finally rest. And all the darkness within myself now becomes at peace with it. Because we're all connected. So when that chaos finally sleeps, it's finally a peace within myself. And I'm just allow this to happen. And I meditate, And I'm just allow the energy to leave. And it makes me cry inside because I know finally the parts that could never be healed are finally healing. The chaos within inside ourselves is finally healing. Nasoyano. It's a beautiful thing when you know something that's so tormented. So what is evil? A soul that is tormented. Thousands of souls that are tormented. That never know how to find the light again. But when they're able to go to sleep, they're finally at peace and they're not being tortured anymore. See, things that are constantly in pain and suffering just do more pain and suffering without even realizing any other way. So are they really bad? Are they really evil? Or is that simply the only thing that they know what to do and how to do? But when they're finally asleep, when they're finally at peace, they're able to rest. Do you know what it'd be like to be kept up in constant torture and never be able to sleep, never able to be at peace? What would that be like? To constantly be in pain and suffering all the time. And the only thing that you know of is that you have to try to at least do something to stop yourself from being in pain. The problem is the only thing that you know how to do is create more pain that will never fill the void within yourself. But when you finally are able to go to sleep, the peace that must create inside that soul, that part of the soul that has been tormented for so long. I think that's why this gives off so much angelic energy, because when the souls finally sleep, they're at peace. And when they're finally at peace, it's almost like, it's like, because of that, it creates the most beautiful sound. And the sound is what makes up the suns around this energy. That it's like a symbiotic thing. So it's like when more and more parts of this are taken out, it's almost like the sound is interrupted, it's not as angelic. It's like, so if it rips apart too much, this whole thing will fall apart. And all that chaos will be released, which would be so sad, because when it's finally at peace, it actually gives off the most beautiful energy. That says a lot, doesn't it? Anyway, that's the journey I did and the journey I wanted to feel. And I'm going to continue to allow the dark parts of myself to be awakened to their mother so they can go back and be at rest. Finally, be at peace. So that peace that they feel will sing, and that will actually help heal my soul, because the sounds that this thing gives is so beautiful, so angelic. Thank you very much, everyone. If you wish to do a journey with me, you can visit my website at amonrostawakening.com. And you can visit my Northern Light page at josephbradleyroars.com. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.